Listeners everywhere, welcome to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, the weekly fix for your screen addiction and a trusted source for discussion of all things film and television. Please keep in mind that for the purposes of this podcast, Joel and Ryan are not acting as journalists, but rather fellow moving picture enthusiasts. All of their opinions should be taken as such. Also, please be warned that while Joel and Ryan may seem like petulant children, they are, in fact, adults who may occasionally use adult language. While they promise to bleep out all the worst words, it's a good bet you will still understand what they were saying. And now, with no further ado, here's Joel and Ryan.
Hello, good friends. Thank you for loaning your ear holes to us for another week. Welcome to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. We're very happy to have you here. We're happy that you are joining us. I am Joel, and of course, sitting next to me, as always,
is Ryan.
Yeah.
Somehow I got turned down really low, and you got turned up really high. So, the beginning of that show, that'll be the first one in history where nobody can really complain that when you talked over the music, you were not able.
I was not able to be heard.
Yeah, but I don't want us to sound like abrasive monsters.
Yes, I'm sure I will still give our listeners plenty to complain about.
We'll see.
Welcome. We're happy that you're here for another week. We have, I think, this is, I think it's a really fun show that we're going to do.
We'll see.
I think that we have some.
Think they're all going to be fun.
We're going to sling some tent.
But then
we're doing another. Our list this week is in a format that we have not done. We have not done a subject like this.
That's right, and we've always intended to, and we've always kind of kept them in our back pocket. So this will be a fun one for you guys.
Yeah,
you guys have already probably clicked on the thing, so you know what. The show's
what
about.
it's going to be.
We like to do this like a movie and announce it.
We're teasing
at the proper time.
Yeah, we're teasing you.
So, but I do realize the irony of that.
You got to stick with us through the crappy exposition and get to the meat.
Yes.
Get to the podcast meat.
Because while we do love our meat, we also love our pudding. And I guess what's this? The salad? Nobody likes this part.
This is the.
And yet we insist on doing it every show.
This is the amuse-bouche. This is your. Now our listeners are going to go. Thank you for putting amuse-bouche at the top end of your show.
I'm super grateful for that.
How was your week? Did you do anything? Did you see anything worth mentioning this week?
Yeah, I did an interesting experiment. I thought this week I would watch the RoboCop movies.
Okay.
And I saw online there was this whole thread, like how it's like watch the Star Wars movies in this order, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
This one was like, instead of watching the RoboCop movies in order, watch RoboCop 2 3 times in a row. And the reasoning behind that... Oh, you know what that sound means? Somebody has an apology to make.
I'm sorry, I was not prepared for the RoboCop 2 3 times in a row.
I think that's a real thing, actually.
Yeah, wow. That was that brought me great joy.
I'm glad that doing the show brings you great joy because it was pointed out to me this week. This is where this is the apology.
Sure, okay, yeah.
And I knew this already. But when it gets pointed out by another person, it kind of becomes, everybody knows this.
Yeah, and that's all you can think about.
Well, no, I thought about
failures.
other things. I had RoboCop to think about some other stuff. So it wasn't all I could think about. But I have been a little preoccupied with it. This is my apology not to our audience, although certainly if you guys want to take it as an apology, that's fine. Whatever, I don't care. It's my apology to you, Joel.
Oh.
Well, this is our 19th show, and I wanted to save this apology for the 20th anniversary show, but it seems like so far away, and I didn't want to forget, you know what I mean? But in the show, I knew this just from when we started doing this. I didn't realize that I do this probably my whole life, not just on the show. But I realized listening to the very first show, and I've known this all along, and I've not really believe it or not, I've become a little more conscious of it, but I still haven't really changed my behavior. And that is that I cut you off rudely and constantly. And it's never going to stop, because you know how I'm wired. I think of something, and if I don't say it, it's gone, and then I can't live with the tragedy of that. I just can't.
Sure.
That is the kind of thing that would haunt my dreams,
right.
that not even RoboCop could distract me from. But it should be said that I know that I do that. Okay, I'm sorry for that. I'm really grateful to have you as a partner in this endeavor, because you take it. I don't know that everybody would be able to deal with my sort of hyperactivity over here. And other people have noticed, so I just wanted to acknowledge it. I don't know that I can fix it. Probably can't. It might actually take some of the magic away if I did.
Well, I was going to say, to me, there's. First of all, I appreciate you saying that. That's very nice of you to say, and
it's true.
But it's this has been our relationship for 20-some years now. Hey, if I have something important that I need to say, or if I have an opinion, or if I have something, whether it be on this podcast or whether it be just in our lives, I have no problem just continuing to talk over you until I get it. But most of the time, well, this is why this podcast, at least for me, makes sense that we do it together, is because so much of what I really enjoy about our friendship and how we've become, or how we've maintained our friendship over all of these years, is I like kind of throwing something up there, maybe starting a conversation, and I start things because I legitimately want to know your opinion on them, because I find you not only intelligent, but you have a very succinct and a very unique lens by which you see the world. And it's part of why I like being your friend. It's part of the reason why I want to be your friend. Well, thank you. So thank you for your apology. It is not something that I go home and complain about. I wish that the listeners could see you right now, because it's like you are ready to burst, waiting to talk, and I feel like I just want to keep talking in long run-on sentences just so you don't interrupt me. But I will stop now and say thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, also, from several episodes back, I don't really remember which. Electronic musical scores. It's Rebecca De Mornay and Tom Cruise, not Rosanna Arquette. So you that one up.
Oh, I did. Yeah. Okay. Oh, hey, we need
just while we're doing a tape rewind.
Oh, yep. Rebecca De Mornay, not Rosanna Arquette. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, and that's one of those things where I plowed right through it. Didn't even know I did that. So that's apology to me, listeners, but dear listeners. Okay, so
sweet.
Yeah,
Thank you for saying such nice things about me and being my partner.
I meant the vast majority of those things that I just said.
Awesome.
So before we get going on the list, of course, we would love it if you reached out to contact us. You can reach out to us via regular email, askjoelandryan@gmail.com. And, of course, you can go to our Facebook page, The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. We are available on Twitter and Instagram at AskJoelAndRyan. And something that Ryan rightfully pointed out last week, the and, while in our logo it is an ampersand.
Mm-hmm. A very stylish one.
Yes. It is, this is all spelled out. Ask Joel and Ryan at AskJoelAndRyan. And you can also go to YouTube, to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan page on YouTube, where you can find such curated playlists like the electronic movie score playlist, the what else have we done? Uninterrupted long takes, uninterrupted shots, and there's a brand new one based on last week's episode. It has all those fantastic sword fights.
All of them?
The 10 that we talked about, yeah.
Nice.
In fact, I should go back and put the Highlander one
Yes.
on there because we did talk about the Highlander one. I think I was putting it together rather hastily while I was on a break at rehearsal.
Yeah. Still good work, man.
Yeah, you know what? And if you're in the Twin Cities area listening to us, you can come see me act like a ham-acting buffoon in Cyrano de Bergerac at the Guthrie, opening in a couple weeks. It's personal plug time there.
Yeah, and or you can stand on the corner down there by the Mary Tyler Moore statue and just start quoting from Highlander, and
Yeah.
I will find you,
And-
and we'll go like watch some movies together. Or
Yep.
something.
And you'll be greeted by Ryan. If you don't know what Ryan looks like, he'll be the guy that walks up to you and says, "There can be only one." But also use your so go on your devices, go into
I
your
was gonna
podcast.
say that sensation you're feeling right now is the quickening, but
Oh, that's better.
well, because they would be.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, that'd be better.
No, I'll say there can be only one now. Then they'll know.
And
There'll be
know.
no ambiguity.
And then they'll smile, and then you can say, "That sensation that you're feeling is the quickening."
Right.
And also, you can take your devices,
Yeah.
whatever your favorite podcast listening platform is, whether it be iTunes, Spotify.
One cool listener
Stitcher.
really said that Pocket Casts is really cool.
Sure, yeah. Everyone,
and
everyone
we're
has their
on
unique-
Pocket Cast, so
We're on Pocket Cast. We're on Stitcher.
if you don't know which one to try, maybe check out Pocket Casts.
If you are a Spotify listener, you should absolutely look for us on Spotify. We are available there.
No doubt.
But specifically, if you are on iTunes, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and also leave us a review. It helps get the word out.
So
about
important
our,
for iTunes, y'all.
Word out about
You
our-
really don't count until you get them subscriptions.
until you get that sweet, sweet iTunes love.
Yeah.
And as we always say on the movie show with Joel and Ryan, when you care enough to send the very best.
Haven't we said that?
I was just going to say, I think I've said that one before. As we always say here on the movie show with Joel and Ryan, eat fresh.
10 seconds. 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I don't know for sure that we've said that one before. It had a familiar ring to it.
I had not gone through.
So that wasn't me calling you out. I was
the last couple
honestly
episodes,
asking a question.
I haven't marked down the last couple episodes what stupid little catchphrase I've put in there. You know what? I hate to sort of steal this from another podcast, but if anyone has any catchphrase submissions, you can always reach out to us and say, this is what you should always say on the movie show with Joel and Ryan.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
We'll queue up Wesley Willis's greatest hits for you, too.
Yeah.
That'll all be late 80s and early 90s slogans, but there's a bunch there.
But if I hadn't said that one before, hey, you got a 2-for-1.
There you go.
Anyway, as you saw from the graphic in our episode this week, we decided to focus on one particular performer and but just rank and talk about our favorite performances by this one particular actor, regardless of whether the film, frankly, is good or not.
Yeah. Ranking the performances rather than the movies, definitely. And there's a bunch of great movies on this list. But it's tough. It'll be weird because, I don't know, can you analyze? I mean, we both been actors. You're acting right now. Do you really analyze people's performances? I know it's a very popular thing for people to do. Oh, that person's a good actor. Oh, those two didn't have any chemistry. Blah, 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 blah. But in film, it's really tough. It's tough to capture the magic. It takes a whole team of people to do it. And then even if they supposedly would never know what hit the cutting room floor or which, they cut away from or which take they used, all that stuff matters. But when a great performance is captured, and I think these are genuinely 10, well, there's about 8 great performances here, to be honest. But it it's not all in the hands of the person. You know, Hayden Christensen, maybe not a terrible actor because he looks so pathetic and weird in the Star Wars prequels, because that stuff, you know, you can battle against that stuff, but you get what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah. No,
you get the point I'm making. It starts with the stuff on the page, and then
I mean, it's a collaborative art form. It's one of the things that I
just don't want to lose sight of that.
No. You know, and I like to think that
this isn't us snarking or praising a celebrity, you know, throughout the years. We really do try and take into account what it is, and we think these things through. And this guy in particular leaps off the page, probably as much or maybe more than anyone ever. Yeah.
So as you
so it makes an interesting place to start.
Yeah. As you know, we're talking about Robin Williams, the great Robin Williams, and you know. Well, a question I have for you, real quick, before we jump into our top 10 list. You know, and aside from you coming up with this subject because you knew that I'm in the midst of rehearsals and we needed something that we could
that we thought would be easy to talk about,
assemble to pretty quickly.
Sure.
Why Robin Williams?
Well, we just lost Robin Williams.
Yeah.
We can call this, I mean, not to be mercenary about it, but we can call this list definitive as far as we're concerned.
Sure.
It's not going to be added to ever.
That's a good point.
But mostly, there's a more personal reason, like there usually is. It's clever to ask the question. You know, Robin Williams isn't an actor that's a favorite of either of ours. I think it's fair to say that. He isn't really. And yet I find when I start listing my favorite Robin Williams performances, the list that I get is 10 or 12 movies long, and it's full of absolutely fantastic stuff.
Sure.
And because of that, whatever thing I thought was terrible, Patch Adams or whatever, RV, or I mean, there's a giant list of movies I think he's terrible in that are terrible.
Yeah.
The list of things that I think he's truly great in are really, really great. It's a really, really awesome list, and it's one that he can be proud of. And the legacy that you can hang on these 10 movies is it's just impressive. That's taking us, you know, setting aside his TV work, setting aside his stand-up comedy work, which is pretty amazing. You know, this was a Renaissance man and a really amazing dude while he lived on the planet, and sort of tormented. And I really believe that is in his work. The more comic and manic the role, kind of the more that inner turmoil kind of came out, I think. So it's an interesting guy to talk about. And I think we'll like him more and get closer to the work from talking about it. So sorry, it's a long-winded answer.
No, I was legitimately curious because you know, we could have put together pretty quickly a show like this about many performers.
Sure, all kinds of people, and hopefully we will.
Yeah.
I just think that Robin's weird. He's one of those guys where if somebody's in the room who really, really loves him, I typically will play devil's advocate and tear him down. And if somebody's in the room who really thinks he's awful, I will flip and argue the good points of him. And I don't know why the things on that particular fulcrum are interesting to me, but they are, and so this guy is. So I think the dynamic nature of Robin Williams's personality, right, and the personality that he put out, I should say his public personality, you know, the personality that we saw when he would go on talk shows, when he would make cameo appearances, right. It's and you know, and from the years and years of stand-up footage. Though I think we agree, those are all, without getting into the. Because we don't know, we can't read his mind, but the Letterman appearances, everything, those are all performances, essentially. Yeah. Very rarely was he ever caught sort of in having a real authentic, right? Authentic moment where he wasn't conscious of
I'm America's favorite funny man, Robin Williams.
Right, and everything I'm going to provide during this little moment is going to be of entertainment value of some kind.
Right.
I'm going to put the effort in every time to do that.
Right, which, if you were a devourer of a lot of entertainment, and especially in the 90s, and if you were a devourer of his stand-up as I was growing up, those performances really started to drive me nuts. Because he would be hailed as this amazing improv and creative genius, and yet you would see that he would just go back to the same two or three voices and bits over and over again, and it really started to drive me nuts because I'm like, do people not see? So I feel the exact same way of what you were saying. There is so much to like about him. There's so about his performances. There's so much that you can go, man, nope. So anyway, let's get rolling on this thing.
Sure. The number 10 item here, I think, actually proves your point of what you were just saying.
Sure, absolutely. And it is a non-camera performance by him, but it is a virtuoso voice performance, and that's his role as the genie in Aladdin.
Yes.
To me, this is his. This is the most pure, unfiltered Robin Williams stream of consciousness performance of anything that he's done.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, it is everything that it is everything that America and the world, I suppose, believed of his performance persona.
Well, I remember the comment going around at the time that movie came out was, here you have Robin, you have him, saying this stuff that comes out of his brain, out of his soul, out of his essence, whatever, wherever his crazy comedy comes from. And the film, for the first time ever, is not encumbered at all by his physical presence.
Sure.
So this genie can be animated to this performance, and that's how they do it. I mean, you might write the script ahead of time, but I don't know how much the stuff he said is really on script. It's all over the place. It had to be a great deal of improv, obviously.
Well, yeah, and you could sort of tell that it was the script probably the script was designed to say, here are the salient points that we need you to get out in this little in this thing. Other than that, do whatever you need to do to get us there.
And that was a gift that they sort of gave him because that's great. Late in life when he was doing that sitcom, I can't remember what it's called, but about that
Crazy Ones.
About the ad agency. At the end, at the last take they did, they just let him do whatever he wanted.
Mm-hmm. And
just to make sure, in case there was any amazing thing there, that they somehow captured it on tape.
Yeah,
and even if they didn't use it, which they smartly didn't use much of it, funny as it might have been, we always got outtakes at the end of that show during the credits of a couple of his final takes throughout the show, which I thought was kind of neat.
Yeah, and it's so it's watching Aladdin. It is very much like watching his really old stand-up specials or stand-up appearances where video remains of him, whether it's doing crowd work or doing just space work, where he's just coming up with stuff and just absolutely having the ability to turn off any filter and turn off any self-judgment and just go and just speak, and that is and so Aladdin, it's filled with impressions and stream of consciousness stuff and silly voices and yet he does still have a few moments where when he has to be part of the story that I think they're able to rein him in a little bit and say, or he reins himself in and says, the story is more important than my craziness, or my whatever wacky performance idea I might have.
Right.
So anyway, that's the number 10 film.
That one wouldn't be on my list because it just first of all, Aladdin was the movie that came after Beauty and the Beast, right?
Right.
In that way, it's a total letdown. It also has this big blue guy who does a Jack Nicholson impression, and like to me, all of that.
And William F. Buckley, and
that's all noise, and I didn't smile much at that when I first saw it, and I don't really know.
Sure.
So, but you can't deny that like you said, it captures something of him. It really does capture something of the essence of Robin Williams.
Right.
That somehow that genie character just does.
Yeah.
It's great casting in that way.
Mm-hmm. And
and people loved him. We watched that movie together too, and people were roaring in the audience. They were loving him. So I'm a little on the outskirts on that.
Well, and this will mention another movie that didn't make our list. The opening of Mrs. Doubtfire. He is, his character is an actor, Mrs. Doubtfire, and he is in a booth recording the voice for a mouse in a cartoon, and and this is one of those. This is a scenario where the thing's already been drawn, and he just has to voice the lines, and of course he cannot do it.
Right.
He is incapable of doing it.
I kind of forgot about that.
And to me, it's a. I sort of feel like that wasn't by accident. Right. That was
obviously.
Yeah, I mean that was a great illustration of look. If you're gonna, this was illustrate to the talent, not just grab the talent and try to pigeonhole it in.
Right. Mrs. Doubtfire also terrible though.
He has a couple.
It's not him.
Good,
he does about as good as he can. And Chris Columbus is a terrible director. He's an almost okay writer, but he's a terrible director.
Yep.
That idea with the animation thing's actually very clever.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a terrible director, and his whole thing was just hire Robin and let Robin make his movie funny because he's a just awful filmmaker. So. It's not. I don't really blame Robin Williams for Mrs. Doubtfire. That I'm not against the idea of it, and certainly the casting of it is clever.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's not a genuine moment in that whole movie. You've corrected me though, because that voice performance moment actually really does ring very true.
Yeah,
and I'm not maybe not giving it enough credit.
And he has some moments where he is, after. The whole
he's
after
out
the whole
of
plan.
sorts.
Yeah, the whole plan falls apart, and he's starting to put his life back together again, and he just wants to be with his kids. He has a couple, solid moments in there, but certainly not enough to get on this list.
No, it almost did. It was close,
yeah.
And it's an iconic role.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't be if he didn't bring something special to the table for sure.
The number 9 film. Is the first entry on the list to explore Robin Williams' darker side.
Yeah, which he got to do in a couple of things.
Yeah, he did. But the number 9 performance for us is Insomnia.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan's remake of the Nordic noir film Insomnia. There's lots of spoilers for things on this list. Insomnia, a lot of you guys have seen that, but if you haven't, I'm about to super spoil Insomnia. Insomnia, in a way, because Robin Williams is cast in it in the first place, sort of spoils itself.
Yeah.
But just to give you a sense, without totally spoiling it, but spoiling another movie, Robin Williams plays kind of the equivalent of character in Insomnia. It's the story of these two L.A. cops who travel to Alaska because there's been a homicide there, and the local police department isn't really equipped to deal with it. There hasn't been a homicide there in 50 years or something.
Yeah.
And the guy who runs the police department up there used to live in L.A., and he knows these guys. So Al Pacino and his partner, they go to Alaska. Al Pacino's an insomniac. Alaska is going through its, 2 weeks of daylight where the sun never sets, which doesn't help with insomnia at all. I can tell you from experience. It really doesn't help. And you start to see things, and things go weird, and he's investigating this murder. And the murder, it's really no surprise about 20 minutes into it. It's really no surprise if you think about it when you look at the cast list at the beginning of the film is Robin Williams. And he plays the equivalent of John Malkovich's character in The Line of Fire. He's this really talky murderer villain. There's a lot of phone calls and stuff involved. And that I usually hate. But every once in a while, you get somebody like Malkovich, or in this case, Robin Williams, who just... the other movie that I had that was similar to this that I was going to mention here is 1 Hour Photo,
right?
Where he plays this total kind of psychopath who develops. He's a film developer in an old photo booth.
Yeah,
you couldn't even do this movie now. Do those even exist anymore?
Still, I think
people still get their film developed. But
they give them. Walmart has it, and
he works at kind of a Walmart place. But he's a throwback guy. Who, because he develops pictures of this particular family, becomes, addicted to them in a very psychotic way.
Yeah.
That movie and that role is actually trickier. The role in Insomnia is much more straightforward. It's a guy who romanticizes about being, capable of so much, being such a dangerous person. And when he finds himself committing murder... you can tell has been launched out of a cannon in a sort of way that he has to be stopped. But he's very, very clever, and he's got an adversary in Al Pacino who's a worthy adversary, but is hamstrung in lots of key ways. Robin, I think, plays that part to perfection. And I'm not so much giving him credit for being brilliant in it as it's such an easy role that could just derail the movie and ruin it.
It could become like Dennis Hopper in Speed.
Exactly, yeah. And in Speed, maybe Dennis Hopper's appropriate, but if you're Dennis Hopper in Speed and Insomnia, you missed the bus.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Number eight. I love this movie. I remember seeing it when it first came out on home video.
Yes, that's how I saw it as well.
Yeah, a movie called The Best of Times.
It's weird that this was on both of our lists.
I know. When I saw it on yours, I was surprised because frankly, not a lot of people know it's a movie about. A high school reunion, essentially,
basically,
and and Robin Williams was the
flanker. He was the wide receiver for his high school football team.
Yep.
And Kurt Russell plays his quarterback, and they're pals and stayed friends. And in the big game against Bakersfield, I can't remember the little town that they represent.
I don't either.
Anyway, Bakersfield is the big city in this particular movie, so you have to imagine that, and then consider that the small town is even smaller.
Right.
It's a great movie. He is thrown the pass by this big quarterback who gets his knee or his collarbone or something blown out.
Yeah.
Where Kurt Russell was going places. He was probably going to go to college on a scholarship, maybe even go pro. Who knows?
Yeah, he was
the local jock.
He was the BMOC.
And Robin Williams was, his teammate and his friend. It's one of those things where it's set up like that big play that you remembered for your whole life. He drops back. It's really shot terribly. Football doesn't take... This play takes, it feels like, 4.5 minutes. The plays don't take that long. He drops back, slow motion, launches the ball up there. If Robin Williams hauls this in, they win finally. They never beat Bakersfield. They'd be undefeated for the season. It'd be the perfect going-away present for Russell, and Robin would have a trophy to put on his desk and to, be hailed as the local hero for really the rest of his life. But he doesn't. He drops it, and instead, that event has formed literally everything that there is about this guy.
Yep.
And both Kurt and Robin, jump ahead. 15, 20 years until they're in their 30s, and Williams is miserable. He's married to he works in Bakersfield in an office. He works for his father-in-law, or who is now his ex-father-in-law, or they're separated, right?
Yeah.
The marriage isn't going well. Robin has nightmares, obsesses about this moment where if this would have gone right, everything would have gone right.
Yep.
And when he gets the opportunity to recreate it, to set up this rematch, he does it. And I got to say, I'm not sure what there is to like about this character. I like him, and I root for him the whole movie.
No, but
he's a single-minded monster.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets everybody to essentially give up what is most important to them
so that
at
he can
that time,
relive
so
a
that he
moment
can
from his
recreate,
childhood.
so that he can try to recreate this game and recreate this moment.
We'll let you guys go down to the corner video store and rent.
But it is that singular vision that it's the fact that he is obsessive. Yeah, he is this obsessive character, and yet you still you get those Robin Williams kind of puppy dog eyes, looking at you. He's so persuasive, and he's so sympathetic while not earning the sympathy.
It's true.
There's just something about and
you want it all to work out for them.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie since I was young, but it stuck with me forever. When anyone asks me what my favorite football movie is, I always say The Best of Times, which just always shocks people.
Yep.
But there aren't a lot of really good football movies. There's a handful.
Yeah.
But it's not like baseball, where we had a million really great ones to choose from, or boxing, where like everyone that comes out is pretty much good to some degree. Football's tough to do on film for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, that was actually
the football in Best of Times is ridiculous, but it
that might be I have a question at some point is why. Well, let's talk in depth sometime about why football is difficult to.
But the Best of Times for Kurt Russell fans, for Pamela Reed fans, she's in it. She's fantastic in it.
It's a great cast. There's moments of it's a
you could almost say it's Capra-esque if it just weren't a little too dark for my taste.
Yeah, it's a dramedy. It has little moments where it feels like like kind of this comedy, this sort of these old guys trying to play football again, and they're all older and things.
Which we should say Kurt Russell's character does not want to do.
Oh yeah,
he doesn't want to have anything to do with this, and resists it pretty much every step of the way.
But for the most part, it's a drama, and it's oof.
Yeah, it's almost a dark comedy, but it's not dark enough to be a dark comedy either. It's an interesting movie. And for a sports movie, it pushes a lot of the right buttons. And Robin is, I think it's safe to say, he's really unlike anything he'd done up till that point. And he'd done a couple of serious turns or a couple of non-Robin Williams roles up till that point.
Which we'll talk about right away next. Yeah,
but he hadn't. This guy, he's just a. He'd done a few more in the future. He did Cadillac Man and a handful of other movies where you're like, there's that guy again. But the first time I ever saw it was in Best of Times. And it's a great one.
Robin Williams' first attempt at a sort of a dramatic role.
Yeah, and it was early on, too, for him.
Yeah, and this is our number 7 movie, The World According to Garp.
Yep.
And
based on the John Irving novel.
And directed by
George Roy
Hill. I keep wanting to say Rob Roy Hill, but that call back to last week's episode.
Rob Roy, it's still out there, gang. Yep. It's awesome.
And George Roy Hill, who of course did Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid,
and The Sting, and the Great Waldo Pepper, and a bunch of other things.
Which we bring up because this movie looks a lot like he uses a lot of he has his isms, his Hill,
very much
his Hill technique
for a guy who made almost entirely light entertainment. He does have a sort of signature zany style. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
World According to Garp for Robin Williams is sort of a step into drama, as you say.
Yeah.
But the film itself is still this sort of crazy, absurd.
It is
mishmash
weird.
Stuff.
Yeah. This film is weird. It is. Yeah, it is. It's a weird story. It's a weird, obviously as a book, that you can get it, and John Irving's able to get into a lot of these things a lot more in depth. But it is, it plays weird. I gotta say, it doesn't hold up as a film. This film, it's an incredible cast.
Lithgow,
Glenn Close's first film.
Yeah,
and Academy Award nominations for both Lithgow and Close. And Robin Williams is really he's really great in it, and because it's the first time that someone it really put hard constraints on him.
Right.
And
it's the first Robin Williams performance, to be fair.
Yeah.
You could argue maybe Popeye a little bit.
Sure.
But Popeye's, that is a performance, but it's a performance of a cartoon that we, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Garp really is the first time where he's asked to play a person.
Yeah, and he is...
And not an alien or a whatever.
Yeah, and he is not allowed to... if he improvised any little thing, George Roy Hill threw it out. Start again. Did not let
made it not worth his while to even bother.
Yeah, and just really put the constraints on him.
It was
and
a good
so
lesson
you get
for him
this,
to learn.
Yeah,
no
you
doubt.
get this performance that is of this character where everything is. He's just nothing goes right. I mean, I shouldn't. Things go right for him. It's just he can never experience his joy. He can't. Nothing can. Whether he publishes a book that people like, his mother publishes a book that's a giant worldwide sensation. He tries to. He just comes from this. His mother, Glenn Close plays his mother, is just this
which is crazy. They're only a couple of years apart in age, aren't they?
This force of nature feminist that
works in the movie.
Yeah, and but she, the way she has. I mean, she gets some of this. She notices that he's starting to experience some interest in the neighbor girl, and it's, boy, you're starting to look like you. And so he's like, well, let me get you a hooker, and so that you can experience, and then I want to know all about it. And so it's like the psychological. I don't want to say damage, but I mean it is. It's like what it does to a person's
mind
psyche
games the whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
And
even the good influences in his life play tricks on him.
Yep.
Whether they may be less overtly manipulative of him, but he lives in a world that is
and
crazy.
So
he lives in the world according to Garp.
Yeah, and it's not, and like I said, the movie itself is kind of, to me, I just watched it a couple of years ago, I think, and it just does not hold up. It's kind of a mess. It's all over the place, but you get this incredibly kinetic performance of Robin Williams where you just feel him completely boxed in, and you just feel this bubbling, this bubbling energy that is just waiting to explode. And the character Garp gets these moments of incredible destruction. Of explosiveness and just and he just blows up, and then it's back into the box, and he just has to constrain everything. And it's it is, and it's the first time that Robin Williams was ever asked to do that, and and he does it successfully, and he does it more successfully in
the next movie.
In the next movie, and in
the next movie, number 6.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've got the list right. I'm not looking at it, but he actually, I think he plays Constraint probably better than he ever did in his entire career. And you want to say what number 6 is?
Awakenings
with Penny Marshall, another late actor / director. Her best movie, in my opinion. Awakenings is a kind of weird movie. I want to say it's weird because it's not weird. It's for a high concept movie, it's almost absurdly conventional. It's the story of this comatose guy who, because of some new treatment, played by Robert De Niro, kind of comes to life.
Yeah, it reactivates a portion of the brain that so in
a Flowers for Algernon sort of way, he becomes a whole person, and it's kind of a miracle. And Robin Williams, he's done this a few times in his career, and usually to great effect, plays the far less animated character, the doctor who oversees him. And this doctor's, it's a performance. He's twitchy, he's weird, he's antisocial, he's shy.
Yeah.
There's a lot for Robin Williams to play with, even though it's a quiet, small performance. There's still a lot going on. So I don't want to say he's playing small, quiet guy.
Yeah.
It's not a small performance.
Yeah,
I guess.
it's not.
But it helps
Tom
pop
Cruise
up De
and Rain
Niro
Man,
in
yeah.
his situation, and he's very, I don't know what the word is. He's very generous in the way which, and very judicious in and part of this is just the way Penny edits. She shoots like 4 movies and then puts the best movie together.
Yeah,
but the moments he takes for himself, because he really is the main character of the movie.
Yeah.
More than De Niro,
it's his story. It's his story. It's the story
right.
of this doctor.
It's great. It's really well rounded. Awakenings is very silly and manipulative cinema, but at the same time, it has the heart of a high-minded Oscar bait movie, which I appreciate. It's shooting for the moon, basically, and I like that, and I love him in it just because he's so, I don't know, it's such an interesting role for him. He's so quiet.
I apologize if my alarm.
If your alarm goes
recorded, well, it did go off, and I apologize if that got on in the background.
I didn't hear it. I was
for my
too busy listening to the sound of my own voice. Awakenings.
Awakening.
Check it out if you haven't. He's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's like what you said. It has all of those wonderful Oscar Beatty type.
It didn't get a whole lot of attention at the Oscar because it really is a popular entertainment in Oscar movies' clothes, but that doesn't make it bad. It's a great movie in that way. It's a great examination of humanity, and there's a defeat that happens in it that I don't know. There's something about having to accept that and having to endure. It's just cool. It's a cool movie.
Yeah. I really like that description.
Sorry to stumble around, but I always, even when we've all seen the movie, I just hate to ruin the endings of movies, so I never want to do it.
Number 5 is another, iconic Robin Williams performance.
Yeah.
Something that he's really, really well known for, and that's Good Morning Vietnam.
And Good Morning Vietnam, in my opinion, I had this quite a bit. Well, I don't want to say quite a bit, but I had this higher. These 3 movies in here we're about to talk about, starting with Awakenings, we all had basically in the middle of our list.
Yeah.
And but we had them in the opposite order. This one was tops on mine, and I'll tell you the reason it was tops on mine instead of the next movie, which is great. Mm-hmm. I think these 2 are kind of peas in a pod. They came out around the same time. Yeah. They feature the same character. I think the reason Good Morning Vietnam makes me the most excited is it's the combination of stuff. I mean, Good Morning Vietnam allows for what Joel was talking about in Aladdin. He gets on the mic and he just lets it fly. And that is Robin Williams. That's his superpower. And, it's cool in a movie like Awakenings or a movie like Garp where he's really not allowed to do that much, if at all.
Yeah.
It's also cool, though, when he does it and tempers it. I just feel like it's almost a window into him in a way, because the guy he is when he's away from the mic is experiencing something totally different and is reacting to it in a very true and honest way. And that we get to have both in that movie I think is what's so powerful about it.
Yeah.
His reaction to Vietnam is obviously overwhelmingly negative. That confrontation he has with his friend, well, I don't know what he says when he kind of finds out what his story is.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I find that's really, really powerful. It elevates that film. But if you just want Robin Williams comedy too, you're given that in a very complicated setting. I don't know. I'm not a huge Barry Levinson fan either, but whoever wrote that story, whatever the idea was behind it, it's a great way to revisit familiar territory in a totally new way. And the new way is Robin Williams' character.
Right.
And the fact that he was cast in that role, it's hard to imagine anybody else doing it.
Sure. And it, like you said, it allows Robin Williams to go off and do his Robin Williams thing. In the best circumstances, Robin Williams is always best when he is riffing on a topic.
Sure.
When he's given structure to his improv, and his silliness, that's when he comes up with his goal and his magic. When he's just go, Robin, do something funny, it gets really diluted and
just word spatter.
It's just word spatter. Yeah, mental diarrhea.
If there's laughs to be had in there.
Yeah, I think he even called it. I think
yeah.
he even called it mental diarrhea.
Sure.
But it's or verbal diarrhea or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's his character's the way he reacted to his when he was Adrian Cronauer not on the air.
Right.
To me, and the movie lets him down on this. So that's why it's hard to blame his I don't blame his performance.
A little bit. That's true. I would have to agree.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that's why it's not higher on the list. Is that I think the material lets him down, and
whereas in the next movie, the material really doesn't let him down. You got a more assured director. You got a slightly better script. What you don't have. And I'll let you announce it here in a second.
Yep.
But what you don't have is him away from the mic, basically. Him not in the classroom. He's not the main character at all in the next movie.
Right.
And in that way, that's not what's broken about it. It's just why I had it a little lower.
Sure.
Because we don't get to see the inner life of him really at all. A little bit, a couple of hints at it.
Yeah.
But he's a foil for our heroes in it.
No, that's a really great point. We're talking about Dead Poets Society.
That's right, which is number 4 on
Yep,
the list.
and that's a really great point, and maybe that's something that I didn't quite think about. I just those moments in the classroom, those moments of teaching.
Well, it's fantastic.
The moments of him out on the soccer field, and the moments of them doing the walking exercise or looking at the old photos. Right. Those moments are so well done, and the tone. The emotional tone, his vocal, the vocal choices that he makes are so spot on.
Well, and even when he's critical of these students, he props them up. Remember the cat sat on the mat, kid? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's like, well, yeah, sometimes poetry can be that simple.
Well, is that what he says?
Yeah, something like that. He's like, it can be something.
It's like sarcastic.
He's
not lying to the kid.
No,
That's
he
a
takes
crap
dig at
poem. But he does it in this way that it's like, hey, man, this isn't easy for you, and here you're standing here.
Yeah.
Take it for what it is. It's a super cool character, and he taps into it in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Because there's not even though it's so showy and performy, there's not a false note really, and that's Peter Weir. He can direct the hell out of a movie.
Yeah, and I think and going back to what you said, the fact that he is not the main character, we don't get these high-minded confrontational scenes where where Robin Williams' character gets to espouse his theory on you get
the closest thing we get is his sort of reaction to Ethan Hawke's deal with his family and you see what's going on behind the eyes, but he's not there to comment on those things so much. That's not what the film is. The film is Robert Sean Leonard. Basically, and it's a coming-of-age film where he's the center of it. What he thinks, his reactions are the most important.
Yeah, it's the story of Robert Sean Leonard's character told through the eyes of Ethan Hawke's character, and Robin Williams' character is the catalyst,
to them all, the spark that makes it all go. Yeah. Obviously, Dead Poets Society, most of us, we've all seen that. It's great. It's a great performance by him.
Our number 3 performance is the performance that got him his Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, and that is Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to even say about Good Will Hunting. That role is a gift. It was written for him. Somehow, actors who recognize... This happens a lot. Actors writing something who recognize something in an actor, that the rest of us maybe don't see. He's shown himself capable of this performance, but we see something of Robin in this. I believe I can't say, but I believe in this performance because it rings so true. We see something of him that really is him in it.
Yeah.
And I love that about the performance of Good Will Hunting. Is why I had it so high. And he did win his Oscar, and it is well written, but it's almost easy performance because the way the dialogue is, how heroic and how idealized this character is to Ben and Matt when they were writing it. But it doesn't matter. He imbues that guy with so much real soul that he deserved the Oscar for it. Quite rightly, I believe.
Yeah.
It's even though it's not much like anything else in his oeuvres, so to speak.
There's moments. It's so lived in.
Yeah.
It's so lived in. It's just comfortable. He knows this character so well that there's not an inauthentic moment.
Right. It reminds me of seeing Bill Murray in Rushmore.
Yeah.
When you see him at the side of the pool and his kids are, his jock douchebag kids are messing around and yelling and screaming, and he just looks like this tired, defeated, kind of just incredulous guy, which is what, I don't want to say defeated, but you're seeing Bill Murray, you're really seeing inside him in a movie for I believe the first time.
Yep.
Even when he'd done serious roles previous to that, they were performing, you know what I mean? Wes Anderson figured out who Bill Murray was and put him in a movie where he could be himself.
Yep.
And still be something else, and it was super powerful. And I really believe that's what that role in Good Will Hunting is for Robin. I can't say because I don't know. We don't know. We've seen Bill Murray since Rushmore be this weird, sardonic, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's always been a smartass, but we've seen him basically be that guy since. We've never really got to see Robin be himself. I'm not sure that we ever have.
Yeah.
I think this is the closest we got.
I think you got a good point there. The scene...
And if it isn't, it's so true that it doesn't matter. If it's just a performance, then give him the Oscar anyway.
Yeah,
Hats off. Good gravy.
The scene where he's talking about his wife...
Yeah.
When his wife farts...
Right.
Is... Boy, man, that is an absolute... It's so wonderful. It's such a terrific...
It's great the way he pushes Matt around in the movie.
Yeah.
It's great the way he stands up for him with Stellan Skarsgård's character. Like I say, if there's a flaw, the character guy's almost too perfect a person. The movie's full of that because, that's very much a first-time screenplay fault. But... that's not the worst thing you can have in your movie is people that you admire thoroughly. So I'm not going to bitch.
So our 2 and our 1 are
actually tied.
They're interchangeable. They're 1 and they're 1A and 1B or however.
We felt like not doing a tie because it's a top 10 list and we didn't want to do 11.
But I did want to mention that these two are really really close. And I got to say, knowing you for as long as I have, I was surprised to see this as your number 1 film.
Well, it's not the movie. Again,
no, I know.
It's the
I'm sorry. I should say the number 1 film of Robin Williams.
And that's important because this is not my number 1 film on this list.
Oh, goodness gracious! Yeah.
But it's number 2 is the Birdcage. The Terrence McNally play. What's the play called? La Cage aux Folles. Yeah. I love him in The Birdcage. Nathan Lane played the crazy, flamboyant guy on Broadway. Robin Williams was approached at the studio's suggestion, I believe, to play that role for the movie. And, of course, he's ideal for it. He'd have been great.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at it and wanted to do the other role.
Yeah. And Nathan Lane wasn't a commodity of any kind. He wasn't.
He wasn't a nobody.
He was a Broadway actor.
But he'd been in lots of stuff. But he just wasn't. He wasn't a nobody. He just wasn't a star for this showy role. Right. But Robin Williams stepping aside, allowing Lane to play the role he played on Broadway to perfection, and being the other guy. I know you know what I'm talking about when I say this. You and I know this couple that these two guys play.
Yeah.
We've met them several times before. McNally knows them too. Probably is one of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's a very, very true relationship.
Yeah.
And Williams plays the truth of it. Because he's very funny, he's very witty, and it's not that he's not funny. It's that Lane and to a lesser degree Hank Azaria, they're so over the top that he's gotta be a pillar to support him. Really,
we see Robin Williams playing the foil.
Right.
He gets these little moments of.
Well, it's his. He's kind of the star of the movie.
Sure.
And again, kind of like Garp, where the craziness is going on all around him. Mm-hmm. There's no question to me that he's the main character in the movie, but he doesn't get the spotlight.
He has to figure everything out,
and it's reality. It's reality impinging on the fiction of the story. His lover is the guy who's always in the spotlight. He's the one who he helps him with his act. He props him up so that he can live that life, and that give and take is the nature of their relationship and their understanding their
and through all of the exhaustion and just of the relationship and the partnership, the love is so evident that there's this bedrock between Nathan Lane's character and Robin Williams'
and it's
character.
Not gushy, but they're an old married couple.
It's just that there's no secrets.
Unbreakable.
Yeah, there's no secrets between the two of them at all, and it is so. Again, we were. You know what? We've done a really good job, I think, to pat ourselves on the back here of not just repeating ourselves every single time, but because I'm realizing I'm about to repeat myself when I say it's so lived in.
Yeah,
everything about those two characters, they are total lived in together. Yeah. Where much like Sean, I think his character's name is in Good Will Hunting, is lived in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
it's it's my favorite performance of his because it's of all his performances in all the movies, that guy in Birdcage more than any other character is a person. Is a person, and it's not Robin Williams that we're watching. Whereas with Good Will Hunting, I feel like we're kind of getting a look into who he is because I think he's championing that character in a personal way. The guy in Birdcage, he's got to step up and perform that part.
Sure.
That's not really him. And yet it's a person. To me, that's the job of acting. It's not the job of every role or every movie, Sometimes you got to be a clown. Sometimes you got to whatever. But when you're really doing it, when someone really wrote it and you're trying to get to something that's true and something that's human, being a person, living in another person, being lived in, like you say, to be able to do that is a real achievement. And he does it in Birdcage. That's why it wins for me.
Yeah,
by a nose. Because
the number one movie on our list is I think we've already
gushed over this movie before. In an Oscars.
Yeah, The Fisher King.
Yeah,
just one of my favorite films of everything.
Well, the perfect mix of his zany craziness, except which is constant. It's almost constant in that film. There aren't many moments where the character has quiet moments, but even quietly is
Yeah.
Again, not really the main character at all. The crazy partner basically is what he is. But there's and it's just true of almost every character in that film. But he really gets to the heart of it. There's a place of pain and a place of loss and mourning and just deep, inescapable sorrow that zany, crazy, escape from reality sort of character comes from. Yep. And because it's propped up by that, it's not only more enjoyable, but the whole thing has all the extra meaning, all the allegorical meaning in the film. You know what I mean? It all takes on more weight and works better and is stronger because of that. And it's just off the wall, super unbelievably funny and touching and crazy and bizarre. It's all those great things. All those great tools that he has in his toolbox all coming out to play in one film. It's wow.
I can't.
I still to this day adore The Fisher King. I love it.
I can't expound any further. I mean, you've said it. You said it really perfectly there by saying it really does exercise everything in his toolbox. The Fisher King. I mean, and also, I don't want to expound any more on it because, like I said, we've talked about this film.
Yeah, go back. I don't remember when it was, but we gave Joel gave Robin Williams the Oscar for Best Actor in 1991. We had to break into Sir Anthony Hopkins' home and take it off his mantle,
and the Flaming Knight came after came after us, and
it was pretty harrowing, but we got it done. So you can check out that. I don't know where that. I can't remember where that was. Which episode that was.
I have no idea.
It was my favorite alt Oscars that we've done so far. Anyway.
Oh, which we should probably do another one of those sometime
soon. It's due.
So it goes. If boy, I can't tell you enough. If you have never seen The Fisher King, please treat yourself to The Fisher King.
Yeah.
If you have seen The Fisher King, watch it again and tell others to do so.
You won't be sorry.
No,
it's got a great dance sequence in the middle of it.
It has a fantastic dance sequence. It's got Mercedes Rule.
Got the first thing
Amanda Plummer,
Michael Jeter, all in their best roles ever.
Oh my God, Michael Jeter's Everything Is Coming Up, Lydia. When he gives her the award and her work.
Yeah.
God, man, that was great.
That's good stuff.
Okay, online programming, on-air programming.
It's up to you. We can go long, or we can just be a little short and take questions.
I think we should just go short and take questions.
All right, let's do that. Let's give them a break. We were $1.24 last time, right?
Yep.
I have a question. Who gave you the right to play God?
What the hell's going on out here?
Why do I bother?
What is the point in doing anything?
How dare you!
What more do you want from me?
I have a question.
Once again, these are questions, and obviously we'll gladly take more questions at Ask Joel and Ryan on Instagram.
We're super excited about these questions.
Instagram and Twitter, the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan page on Facebook, and Ask Joel and Ryan at gmail.com. Or heck, you can throw a comment on our YouTube page. I'll find it.
Or our Instagram page.
Did I not say Instagram?
Did you?
Instagram and Twitter at Ask Joel and Ryan.
Oh, yeah, you did.
So these questions, our good friends Rob...
Because they go hand in hand.
Yeah, our good friends Rob and Ben...
they gave us a whole bunch of questions last week, so they're going to run the end of the show here for a few weeks.
Yep, and full credit to them.
Yeah.
Obviously, thank you to you guys for sending in these questions, and also
full
credit for every time you started a new paragraph. You started it.
I have a question.
I have a question.
I have a question.
So let's jump into it. I
have a question.
We've talked about the Lion King remake a little bit already.
Yeah, it was a hot take.
It was a hot take,
a pretty good one, I have to say.
This was Rob's question. He was watching the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally saw a commercial for Disney's new Lion King. What are your thoughts on this? I understand a live-action remake of Aladdin, Dumbo, even The Jungle Book, as these films will be a combination of live-action and computer animation. They all contain human characters who will be played in live-action. The Lion King has no human characters.
Yeah, well...
They are simply remaking a hand-drawn animated film as a computer-animated film.
Jungle Book only had one human character.
Yeah. He's like...
and it was pretty good.
Yeah, so Rob says here...
Talking animals that were trying to be photoreal. It worked pretty good. Mm-hmm. To me, that's the template for a Lion King that you can like, is that Jungle Book movie. Now, Dumbo, that's trickier, because Dumbo is almost inherently a cartoon. Mm-hmm. I know there's humans in that, but the crows aren't humans. It's going to be weird.
Yep.
Lion King, I think you can do it. I think mammals... I think that Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe's not perfect, but it's not bad. And it's been a long time since then, so I think it can happen. I don't love the idea of it, but, Cinderella was pretty good. What's the...
Beauty and the Beast.
Well, Beauty and the Beast was almost great. Mm-hmm. Now, the animated Beauty and the Beast was almost perfect if not perfect. But it was quite good. I really like that. So,
and who knows what Aladdin? I have no idea how.
So I don't like. Out. I get what you're saying, Rob, and you're right. What do we need that for? We have the Lion King already. Mm-hmm. What do we need a more animated Lion King for? But it's just their way of rebooting the Lion King by doing the Lion King again, using a different technique, and
it also gives us a chance to have those songs again that we know, and also I'm assuming they're probably going to pull some of the songs from the Broadway production,
probably,
and probably write at least one or two new songs,
at least one, so they can try to get on the
Oscar list, and the new music that is used in the Broadway show, a couple of those are spectacular songs.
Yeah.
So
and just the music in general. Is Mark Mancina doing the score for it?
I have no idea. I hope so. I would hope
it's an important part of the Broadway show. He does a really nice job.
Um,
But he doesn't do a lot of scores anymore. He had a big run there when in the mid-'90s to early 2000s, and I haven't seen him do much.
Sure. All right, let's give him another one.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Ben has a question.
I was leaning back and chilling.
I know you were relaxed.
You put me on the spot there.
We have these great sounders that you created. I want to make sure that we
that
we get them out there.
You bet.
Boy, man, I can't wait for you guys to hear, for you wonderful listeners to hear when we introduce Ryan's Video Corner. Whew.
Well,
we'll
see.
Yeah.
You might, I don't know. We'll see. Don't be hyping things up until then.
No, I'm going to hype it. You guys have never heard anything like this. Once again, the movie show with Joel and Ryan is redefining the podcast for the podcast medium.
I've said it before. It's all in an effort to make our podcast as podcasty as possible.
Okay, so here's here's a.
Whoop.
No,
I have a question.
Warner Brothers or 20th Century Fox? Which is better?
Warner Brothers.
Okay. I'll leave it at that if you want.
It's impossible to say because these companies have changed hands.
Yeah.
Back and forth throughout the years. They've gone through phases where they've been this and then they that. So you can't. If you're going to compare them now, 20th Century Fox really. That was a weird company who did weird big movies, but Fox Searchlight championed some incredible movies and have sort of dominated the Oscar-nominated categories the last few years, and it's because some of them they're just picking up at festivals to distribute, some of them they're co-funding, whatever. But Fox Searchlight for the win in that case, if we're talking about recent history. But now with the Disney sale, it's impossible to say what Fox is going to be or what Fox Searchlight's going to be. It's scary to think that we might lose what they've been lately because of that, even though it's hard to believe that when they were owned by Rupert Murdoch that they were putting out these sort of thoughtful art films and that was their best stuff. You know what I mean? That's weird to me. That's not really Disney's thing, but maybe part of the reason they wanted Fox was so they could do more of that, which is great. In general, throughout the years, the history of the studios, I'll take Warner Brothers and the Water Tower, but it's tough. It's tough to... That's a tough question to answer. It's a whole essay just talking about one of these studios. But I love it. I love you thinking in terms of studios. I love that. My movie collection here is sorted by studio.
Yep.
So it's something that I think about and consider every time I watch a movie. Every time I pick one off the wall. But. If you want to know more about what I think about the studios, I'm happy to talk about it. Ask a slightly more specific question next time, because the compare and contrast is tough.
So you have an assignment, dear listener. So please reach out to us at any of our things.
We've said them twice already, so we're good.
I don't want to say them a third time.
Just roll it back a little bit.
No one needs to hear me go through all those again.
Nah.
So, I think that's going to do it for our episode here.
Yeah, I hope we did Robin some credit. I don't know.
He's an important figure in modern cinema. He
was a true movie star and yet a real actor when given the opportunity.
Yeah, a force of nature, and for the most part, a force of nature for good. With the charity work that he did with the comic relief stuff, his performance, his cameos. Obviously going all the way back to Mork and Mindy, but his guest starring roles on even he did a Law and Order stint. He had no qualms about what medium and he worked in. He just loved to be out there and loved to be performing.
Yeah, a little bit of Robin Williams trivia. I hate to throw an anecdote at the end of this, but since I thought of it and won't be able to talk about it next week, there's the Time Traveler episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where they're visited by a guy from the future who turns out to just be a con man, basically, from the past who stole a guy from the future's time machine.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert on that episode. The role is played by Matt Frewer, and who's great in it. Max Headroom, you may know him as, or I don't know, maybe no one knows who Max Headroom is anymore. I don't know. Point being, that part was written for Robin Williams, and Robin was going to do it before something got in the way.
Yeah. Something
ran over or whatever. But he was a Star Trek fan. Whoopi Goldberg thought it'd be fun if he came on the show, convinced him that he should, and it just goes. It's a fun trivia. Matt Frewer's great in the role, though. Actually, it worked out okay.
It did.
But it just goes to the point of what you're saying. It's show business. He was a show business guy. And if you needed... He put the show in show business. If that's what you needed, he show up for you every time.
Yeah, whether you were going to cry or laugh or whatever, Robin Williams was willing to do whatever he needed to do to give to give the audience a good time, an emotional time. He loved to entertain. I also want to make sure that we mention. And not to end on a downer, but if you are feeling depressed or suicidal, or if you know of anybody who is feeling depressed or suicidal, please reach out. There are many organizations that can help people in crisis, and you should absolutely. You should absolutely intervene on your own behalf or on the behalf of those that you love.
Yeah, Robin helped teach us that lesson, and hopefully we've celebrated his life and his 10 best works, according to us anyway.
Yep. Thanks so much for joining in.
Yep.
And we will catch you next time.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Remember, all views and opinions represented in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the speaker and do not represent those people, institutions, or organizations that the speaker may or may not be associated with, unless explicitly stated. None of these views and opinions were intended to malign or deceive. And now, here's the producers, circa 1982, to play us out.
You're in more dire need of a blowjob than any white man in history.